Well, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing frogs.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD
I
or
ain't got
something.
nothing.
No, calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Chinese critic.
erratic
Mikhail
detective,
Rodriguez.
is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? No, Gildarie, you deal with that. You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Gildarie, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that.
Hi, good evening. Welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show right here on TBN. You can get it there on YouTube also. You get TBN or the Guyanese Critic there. Wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing, I want to say good night, good day, good morning. I hope that you're having a wonderful time. If you're cooking, just tune in and make sure that you don't burn your hands. If you're driving, pay attention, hands on. Make sure that you're safe on the roadways. Too many deaths, 50 plus deaths on our roadway that should not have been this year, and it is just going on. Today, somebody lost a life, a lady on the west coast of Demerara in the East Escobar area. It saddens my heart, and I think the hearts of every Guyanese persons across this beautiful country of ours, and wherever you are, it should have you concerned. Wherever you are also, today happened to be a very significant day. It is the Indian Arrival Day, but it should not be Indian Arrival Day for just Indians in Guyana. We are all Guyanese at the end of the day, and as we move forward as a country that is developing, as a developed country, the talks should always be about the inputs, about the impact of all of our people. Whatever you consider yourself to be, whether it's Amerindian, whether it's Portuguese, whether it's Afro-Guyanese, I like to consider ourselves as all Guyanese, so there's no distinction. I'm mixed. I don't think Freddie is mixed. Tonight is going to be pretty interesting because we're going to be discussing the impact of Indians in Guyana. We're also gonna, we're gonna divert a little from that. We're gonna listen to you as part of the Guyanese watchers, listeners, followers here. Make your input, make it short and sweet. Let us keep it respectful. I'm gonna stop here because Freddie Kissoon, my co-host, is in the house as usual. Never missed the show, and except for a few days, he said he was ill. But he's here, all ready to go and make his input, and it's good listening to him also. Good night, Freddie Kissoon. I hand it over to Freddie Kissoon because he's going to tell you about our two guests that we have here tonight. It's going to be interesting because one of them especially have some questions for him because he is a man that has been created in some waves, but I also like some of his angles that he's taken when it comes to Guyanese politics and our people. Freddie Kissoon.
Hi there, wherever you are. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. A few things to be cleared up on the format of tonight's show, but just one little inconsequentiality. I only missed one show. That was my knee collapsed, and I went to Joshua Public Hospital and get it fixed. Not a private hospital. Now, for the format of our show, there was a mistake. We don't have two guests. When we have a guest, we interview them, we get their reactions, a description of their experience, their worldview, their conceptualization of politics. We try to bring that out to them. We don't have 2 guests this evening. What we have are 4 co-hosts, and we decided that we will bring 2 non-Indian co-hosts to reply to our telephone callers who will comment on the arrival of Indians 186 years ago, from there to the present time. What have they achieved? What are the pros and cons? How do you feel about Indians? Now, when you call in, we will get a reaction from 2 non-Indians. Both of them have lots of experience living politics in Guyana. The man with the license to kill 007 needs no introduction. When you have a license to kill and you're the twin of James Bond, you don't need no introduction. So I would not go further with describing the background of 007. He was a guest here a few weeks ago. The other person is a friend of mine for over 50 years. Malcolm DeFrietas. He was very young in the famous third party, the United Force, led by one of Guyana's most iconic businessmen, P.T. Degar. When the United Force faded out, he participated in resurrecting it, giving it a new name, TUF. Just type in Freddie Kissoon Gildarie show, Malcolm DeFrietas, and you will see he has been interviewed on this program. So, we are not interviewing James Bond and Malcolm DeFrietas. We want to hear their reaction to questions on the East Indians of Guyana. And the second format is that any of the panelists, even if a question is directed to Bond or Gildarie, or the other two hosts, me and DeFrietas, other panelists could say, I don't agree with you, Freddie. That caller hasn't got the idea what he's talking about. So that's the format for our program this evening. It's a call-in program. The topic is the entire gamut of Indian affairs. I don't know if James Bond and Malcolm DeFrietas would, I want to choose my word carefully, I don't know if they would want to discuss road building, a road that didn't do good, NIS, etc. That's not what they're here for. They're here to discuss and give the intellectual, cultural, and political perspective on the world of Indo-Guyanese. So if you can just for tonight spare us your questions about mud in somebody's yard, the NIS, etc. Please confine yourself to the topic of 186 years of East Indians in Guyana. What have been their experience? What is good about them? What you think needs to be improved about them? What you think about the practice of their culture? Most Indians are Muslims and Hindus, but you have a substantial number of Indian Christians. Things like that. Now, if you look on the screen, I'm going to look on the screen. It's 231-2982. And then there's the WhatsApp number that tend to be appreciated by the diaspora. 637-1071. Our guest, not our guest, our 2 panelists, as usual, myself, Gildarie, and we have 2 guest panelists, 2 guest hosts, James Bond and Malcolm DeFrietas. So while we wait for your call, we can have a chat among ourselves while we wait for your call. The topic is, as you see on your screen, the East Indians of Guyana, 168 years from the beginning to now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Freddie. And I think I would want to go straight into it. Let's hold the call for a few minutes. There's an interesting thing that I saw recently with Mr. James Bond. As you know, Mr. James Bond, former parliamentarian, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much. James went on a social media live and he was encouraging Guyanese contractors. He says, don't bother with the noise around you. I think that is, in essence, what he's saying. There's an opportunity. It's not, there's an opportunity for everybody to cash in on government contracts. Give us a little context, because I think this has a relationship to all Guyanese and the whole thing of Indian arrival in Guyana, as to how all Guyana, it should not be Indians alone. And I maybe somewhere along the line I want to go along that way. What caused you to, or what was the circumstance that caused you to basically criticize, I think it was Mark Benshaw and somebody else, and what was the context of that?
Good night, viewers. Good night, Freddie, Malcolm.
Good night.
Leonard.
It can't be good night, viewers. India is 9 hours ahead of us, so, and the UK is
Good morning and good night, yeah. Whichever time zone you're in. Interesting. Yes, happy arrival day. I think we moved away from Indian arrival day in 2003, 2004. And recently I saw the PNCR is calling for us to get back to Indian arrival day in recognition of the contribution of East Indians in Guyana, and I support that call. It's known as Arrival Day, recognizing the contribution of all the races, people like Malcolm being part of that. But I think we should move back towards Indian Arrival Day to contribute the singular contribution of East Indians in Guyana. I believe that. Now, the question of the government space, the wealth of the state, the patrimony of the state, it belongs to all Guyanese. Irrespective of race, irrespective of creed, irrespective of political persuasion. What has been happening is there are those in certain quarters who are reckless in their espousal of what is the state's wealth. They've been saying that the state's wealth is only limited to a particular class of people. And they've been telling youngsters that if you gravitate towards getting into this space where you could award for a contract, bid for a contract, and receive a contract, that you're now automatically a house slave. So then their espousal is Afro-Guyanese, keep away from the government, keep away from this space of economic empowerment. Now, Mark Benchcup and Norman Brown, since forever, they've been calling people house slaves and soup drinkers, simply because they're a class of Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, that want to move into this space. But whenever they move into this space, they're labeled as house slaves, as soup drinkers. And I'm saying we should ignore that. Whether you're an Amerindian, East Indian, Portuguese, you must know that the wealth of the state is not the PPP's wealth. And even if AAP and AFC were there, the wealth of the state is not APNU AFC's wealth. It belongs to you. In Guyana, we were blessed to be born here, and the resource of this state, God has blessed this country with, is for all of us. So I'm encouraging all young people, irrespective of race, to get into the economic space and try to develop this country as best as you could.
Freddie, and here is why I asked that question. Here it is. You're not a PPP, are you?
No.
Good. You have an independent young black Afro-Guyanese is saying to the people of Guyana, make use or take the opportunities that come here. And in that context, it is good that we have a James Bond sitting on a panel here discussing about the impact of Indians in Guyana. And we could also have panels and shows dedicated to the arrival of the Portuguese, of Afro-Guyanese, and so on and so forth. But I like the fact that we could sit here at this point in time and in a very free air, be able to express our views on anything. And you could be tolerant too and say, look, I admire James Bond for the contribution that he's made to Guyana. He's an independent thinker. I admire Freddie Kissoon, not only because he's Indian, he's a businessman. That in essence is what I'm talking about, tolerance. But Freddie Kissoon, I think we have some calls coming. Do we go straight?
Yeah, we go.
Yes.
We need to tell our viewers that when it's calling, we go until 10 o'clock. So it's 1 hour, 30 minutes to put your questions to all four of us. Let's say what James Bond and Malcolm DeFrietas has to say.
It doesn't necessarily, ladies and gentlemen, necessarily have to be questions. You can make a comment, you have a suggestion, or whatever is the case. Is make a contribution.
Yeah, make
it short and sweet.
Give us your analysis and your
6231-2982 is the landline number. There's one coming in right away. Let's go take that. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good night, sir.
Good night.
I would like to say happy arrival day to all our Guyanese brothers and sisters.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Mr. James Khan for being on the program. At least uniting all Guyanese. That's one Guyanese, one race, one color. And thank you very much for the program, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for coming through.
Where are you calling from, caller?
I'm calling from Kitty.
Oh, nice. Right down there. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming through there.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to comment on something that Mr. Bond was saying a moment ago. I like his idea and his concept of we are all one, because that is inside our Constitution. The imperative of unity is in our Constitution. The very fact that our political immaturity over the entire period after the nationalistic period in the early 50s and the early 60s and after independence, after that period we got into a disparate frame where division came into our society using a racial paradigm. And in that racial paradigm, it got into different blocks, kind of more like political tribalism in a sense. I'm happy that Mr. Bond has this fresh thinking, this unity thinking, and that's what we need to move this country forward. Because right now, we are now being so exploited because we have not unified ourselves and become a force to move our country forward.
Thank you very much. We take a call right now. Let's see. It is 328. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
First of all, I want to congratulate you guys for the show. I have a little input I want to make, please. You could answer the question. Concerning these part-time job, people are doing this work, right? You hear me?
Yes, we're listening.
I know it's not a bad input, but all these government places go, anywhere you go, you see these people and just sit around on the phone, they ain't doing nothing. So till they're talking about now the hardest thing for the part-time job is to wait till the time done to go.
Please tell that call.
All right, no problem, caller. We hear you. The topic tonight, we want to stick to the topic, which is Indian arrival, the impact of Indians in Guyana, and by virtue, if we go off a little off of that, in that direction. But we hear what you're saying. Thank you for coming through.
All right,
have a good night. Bye-bye. Good evening, caller. Hello.
Hold on.
Yes, please lower your volume there, please.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right, hold on. Ready?
Look.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
I have two questions. One.
You got to put your mouth closer to the microphone and switch off whatever it is that you listen to.
Yes. One question. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
The first one is to Mr. James Bond. I know he's a PNC, and I don't know if he's still a PNC. You will have to answer that tonight. The second question is that the Indian Culture Center was built by the Indians.
We're not getting you very clear. There's an echo in the background there. There's an echo. Do you have us on? Hello? We're not hearing you very clear. Do you have it on speaker or something because it's echoing?
No, not on speaker.
All right, put your mouth a little closer to the microphone.
My first question is to Mr. James Bond. Is he still a PNC or not? Because it sounds to me like he's neutral. So, that's the first question. That's to Mr. James Bond. Is he a PPP or not? Or a PNC?
Before he answers, may I ask what's the relevance of that?
Well, you've been taking all other questions, which is not relevant to the show tonight. In your arrival day, political questions.
But before Mr. James Bond comes on, I think I did explain that. It is good to have a diverse panelist in the here. Pardon?
The Indian Culture Center, Indian culture was naturalized under the PNC, in which the indentured laborers of this country built that culture center. I wanted on Mr. James Bond's view in the PNC era.
No, you asked a question whether he is a PNC. Or Mr. Bond is going to answer it. Let me see.
There are two questions. There are two questions. One is relevant to the program. He said it's Indentured Money Built the Indian Culture Center. It's up to James to answer the first question.
Did I hear you clear? Came out.
I don't think I was not confused, but go ahead.
Yeah, as I said before, which is the camera?
Yes, I know.
Yeah. As I said when Gildarie asked if I'm a member of the People's Special Party Civic, I said no. I am PNC and proud. And the fact that I'm PNC does not mean that I cannot be neutral. I think the culture has always been, if you're a PAP, then your job in 2T is to bash the PNC. And if you're a PNC, your job is to bash the PAP Civic. I see a different approach, that you could be PNC and still say, well, the government today did a good job here, a good job there, or a bad job there, or a bad job here. As it relates to the naturalization of the Indian Culture Center, I'm not aware of it, and I don't think I could speak of something that I'm not aware of. That's news for me. That's news for me. But I do know that the Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, he made tremendous contribution, recognition of the Indian contribution to Guyana. A lot of the holidays, Diwali, Pagwa, those were done under the PNC regime. Even the Indian Arrival Day, that was done under the PNC regime. So
No.
it was not under the PNC regime?
No. Indian Arrival was under the PPP.
It was under PPP? Yeah. I stand corrected with that. So but a lot of
in 1985.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we got two calls coming.
I want to answer the question on the
national. You got calls coming.
Let's deal with calls. Good evening, caller. All right. I think we missed that one there. Let's see. There's a call. Yes, good evening, caller.
Yeah, good night. I would like to make my intake on the caller earlier that's saying that I have the 10 people that they employ for work in the government place.
That's not a topic tonight, sir. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with Indian Arrival.
Talk about that, sir.
Yes, but I understand that, but we don't want to discuss that.
I want to tell him. Just listen out, Uncle. Listen out. They have in years ago from now on, from before now, the government ministry. Listen to me, sir.
We listen.
Yeah, the government offices they have over employee working there.
So we're gonna have a call-in program. We're gonna have a general call-in program where people can talk about that. So please don't let us cut you off. Please stick to the topic.
We hear you. We understand the thing on it, and we're gonna come back to that because that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you for coming through. All right, let's go back here once again. We're talking about Indian Arrival. We have on our panelists here, in addition to myself, Leonard Gildarie, and Freddie Kissoon, we have James Bond, independent thinker. He would describe himself as a former parliamentarian, a staunch supporter of the PNC. That's his party, but he also views himself or describes himself as an independent thinker, and he's not afraid to say that. And of course, Malcolm DeFrietas been in politics a long time. Let's stick to the topic. We're talking about Indian Arrival in Guyana, the impact of Indians in Guyana. We can divert a little, but let's talk about inclusivity, tolerance, and whatever it is that has to do with development.
Malcolm said he wants to.
All right, and let's take this call first and come back to Malcolm. Yeah. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
I'm calling from the quarantine. When I saw all the Mr. Freddie Kissoon, Gildarie, James Bond, and the SNXU.
Yes, sir.
I'm calling from Firish Village. This is 2 months now. I know it's Indian Arrival Day.
Yes, please, please speak to the topic. Please speak to the topic. If we keep these extraneous calls.
No, it's not extraneous. I tried to call several times.
So the topic is Indian Arrival.
For 2 months.
Look, could you call me afterwards on 637-1071 after the show and we discuss that?
Okay,
Thank you very much. Malcolm?
Yeah, I think there's some confusion of the relationship of the development of the National Culture Center. Yes, it started out with monies that were placed for a fund that was developed.
Indian Immigration Fund.
Indian Immigration Fund. But that was not the entire, it was more than that fund to develop the National Culture Center. The basis of that was so, but you had to go to Parliament to get more monies to create that, the National Culture Center. This is sometime in the early 70s, between 71 and 72, right? So to say that there is no input from the Indian Immigration Fund would be wrong. But to say that the Indian Immigration Fund built the National Culture Center is also wrong. So we have to be careful. We must understand and be clear on what we do before we really speak on a matter. I want to say that in relation to
thank you very much. Okay, there's a call coming in. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to the panel. All of my contribution is that I'm proud that I'm living in the US and I've seen two people that are of not Indian descent, James and DeFrietas, celebrating Indian Arrival Day in Guyana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming through there. There's another call. Let's go. Yes, caller. Freddie, any input? You've been very quiet.
No, well, I prefer if our two other co-hosts to let's hear their views. And I will give preference.
But in the meantime, while you guys are coming through,
the thing about Malcolm, I am not too sure. I don't want to accept what he has said.
Hold on, Derek.
I don't want, but if there's another caller.
Yes, this is Mr. Derek Harkle. Go ahead, Mr. Derek Harkle. Go ahead.
Good night, Mr. Leonard and Mr. Kissoon.
Go right ahead, Derek.
I want to congratulate Mr. Bond as an Afro-Guyanese for taking the stand that he's taking.
Thank you, sir.
You guys are doing a fabulous job, and Mr. Bond, don't let them stop you from making those comments. You continue on that line. We need Afro-Guyanese to step up and make those statements. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.
You too, sir.
I got a question, and I want to ask James especially, and maybe Malcolm himself. Do you agree with us describing ourselves as Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, Portuguese Guyanese, Amerindian Guyanese? Do you subscribe to that concept or so?
It's okay. Ethnic identity is important in an individual. Ethnicity, there's a reason why we are made this way. You know, I don't think we should at any time think that we should replace our ethnicity, who we are. I think, however, that national identity is equally important, and we should not subsume or cannibalize our national identity in the sake of pushing an ethnic agenda. I believe the national identity in any way, shape, or form contributes not only to the individual, but to the nation and the impact of our country as a whole on the international scale. By saying this here, when you step out into certain countries, it's no longer Afro-Guyanese James, Indo-Guyanese James, Guyanese or Portuguese James. It's just Guyanese. Our nationality takes preeminence. Even to some people, I know they said when they leave Guyana, mixed race or Indian, and when they reach US, they're termed black. They're termed black. So your identity might shift, but your national identity, and I think Malcolm made a tremendous point, which I agree with. We're dividing ourselves over how we look and where we came from, and at the expense of moving this country forward. I think when I look at other countries that have put their national identity in front, I can remember in Trinidad and Tobago. I never forget this scene. It was around elections time. I was staying in Currap, Watts Trace. The bar that I was staying at was celebrating a PNM victory, and the bar was predominantly Indian. The bar was predominantly Indian. That's in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, and they in Trinidad and Tobago, they would celebrate being Trinidadian. In Jamaican, they celebrate Jamaican. I think we need to celebrate more. Look, I've celebrated Guyana and Guyanese, irrespective of my race, but I still know that I'm an Indian, I'm an Afro-Guyanese, but my Guyanese identity.
I am going to inject something light and irrelevant, but it's light, but it's still relevant.
Take a moment.
I've known Malcolm for more than 50 years. We come from Watermanville. He's never had a Portuguese girlfriend.
I don't know.
He's always had African girlfriend.
I'm going to come back.
Hold on. Good for you, but you don't know me. You don't know me all the time. That's the difference in there.
Good for you, man.
No. I love Portuguese. No. Hold on. Let me answer that question.
You're Portuguese first.
Let me handle this question, Freddie. You're talking about the women in my life.
No, I
can tell you.
I don't want you to discuss. Like we're trying to.
No. I want to deal with that.
I would like you to answer Gildarie's question. Are you Portuguese first and Guyanese second?
Not my Guyanese first. I've always been a Guyanese first.
Thank you very much. Well, let's hear this call coming in here. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Pretty good. Go right ahead.
I would like to congratulate Mr. Bond. He's made a tremendous effort. Tonight he's done something real good. And I would like to just ask Mr. Bond tonight what he feels about the One Guyana initiative.
By
nip it in the bud.
Okay, what does he feel? You understand the question?
Yes.
He's going to answer.
I've said it. I don't like the One Guyana. I don't like it for one reason, for a very simple reason. Our motto says one people, one nation, one destiny. But in reality, I'm a practical person. In reality, there are two Guyanas. Guyana is very divided along political lines, and I would like to see that divide bridged.
Boy, isn't that the whole concept of what Irfan Ali as a president and his team is trying to achieve?
Yeah, I must say this very, very practically. The One Guyana initiative is something that I don't think it should be sloganized. And that's my.
But how do you sell something like that?
You sell nation, you sell country, sell nation. I don't think every government is.
No, it's a symbol that has importance. It's a symbol, but when you finish,
I've experienced my little reading is a lot of regimes in terms of propaganda. They tend to move towards slogans and these things instead of the work. What is being done on the ground. I'm saying besides a slogan of One Guyana, like I mentioned before, more effort needs to be put into the actual creating that national identity, to removing the political barriers, the racial barriers, the economic barriers that separate Guyana.
But hold on, James. And Freddie, if I may. I am the president of Guyana, and I want to bring this country together. The country is divided. Yeah. Let's agree on that. The country is divided. Maybe not so much as people would think. How do you start a movement that is going to bring not only tolerance but pride in the country? Pride that you're Guyanese, this passport that you have in your hands or your ID card, that when you go any part of the world. And I want to say this also. I don't think there's any time in our history of this entire country that there's been so much pride than what we have right now. But how do you start something like that without a slogan or whatever?
You want to
action. Yeah, but you don't need a slogan for that. All I'm saying is this here. I will ask you one simple question, but I want to get a slogan. Is it subscribed to by the AP and UFC? Is it subscribed to by the WPA? Is it subscribed to opponents of the government?
No, but the question is it subscribed to by this nation? Who speaks for this nation? A non-existent group named the WPA? Why should look? You a strong admirer. You came on this program and said you're a strong admirer. This is your third appearance. And you've always said you admire the Forbes Bonham, the PNC. From Bonham to Hoyt to Jagon, to all of them, outside leaders. You have to rally a nation. You have to rally a nation, and leaders invent concepts and symbols that can get into the consciousness and patriotism of the people. But I don't want to take up too much time.
I think I want to comment on this. This is a big issue. It might sound simple, but an issue that goes to the very psyche of us as a people.
The psyche of us.
Yes, of us as a people. Now, if we're moving forward and you want to be going to become more nationalistic and we want to be moving to develop more harmony, greater harmony, more progress, a unifying and solidifying of the people. We already have that. We had that in the motto, which is in the Constitution of Guyana. And the way that the current administration is dealing with it in this way contradicts the Constitution of Guyana. And people, unless we really understand the depth, I think the basic idea is good, but the clothes that it is carrying is creating.
How would you close it, Michael? How would you close it?
I would close the words.
These are your slogans. You don't need slogans.
The point is,
don't need slogans.
I'm not finished.
You don't need slogans.
If we say to ourselves, we are one people, we there. One nation, we there. All right. The one destiny part, you might have a little difficulty about that because political groups might have different objectives. So the concept of destiny might be a little problematic. But we talk about one people and one nation. Those two parts of the tree, that is a solidifying of our nation. And if we keep to grow that, and we can grow that. No. Yes. Because you're not putting on your political science brain. You put on political science, and you understand that.
I have it on.
No, you don't.
You don't have your turn to answer. You have to answer that.
And the point is,
I don't know what to answer. I don't know.
No,
what he's saying.
Because you don't have it. The point is, if we understand that the two are core concepts there, and we use that, why did you have to? Because there's a new administration in power. They want to go to the same concept. I'm presuming. But let's say that the administration today wants to go into the concept of unifying this nation. Why don't we take the same thing that we have historically and use that? That's my problem.
But that's what they're doing with one. No. It's just
it's a matter of the use of
the
use of language.
It could be all Guyana. It could be we Guyana.
No, hold on. No, you're wrong there, Freddie. The point I'm saying to you very clearly, the close, meaning the words you conceptualize the concept into. The words of the close. If the close are bad, the entire concept will be
interesting
distorted.
Discussion here.
And that is the distortion.
There's a caller. Caller, good evening. Hello. I think we missed that one there. Let's see another one. There's somebody from overseas here. Good evening, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm calling from Toronto, Canada.
Good night, Toronto, Canada.
Yes, and I always look at you guys' show every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And my concern as a Guyanese Portuguese, I'm here.
yeah, we be listening to you. Malcolm is smiling.
Yes, as a Guyanese Portuguese living in Toronto, Canada, I lived all my life in Guyana. Yeah. And my concern is Guyana is supposed to be a country of 6 races. But of recent, I'm hearing about a one Guyana, which I don't understand. And I'm looking at you guys, and everybody seems to be very happy. But I think Freddie is more onto the Indian side, which I don't really appreciate. And as a Guyanese Portuguese, I feel very disrespected because we are not recognized in Guyana.
Could I ask Freddie to answer you?
I don't understand.
Could you pose a question to Freddie and let him answer you?
I never comment.
Freddie, the lady has an opinion.
I don't want to ask Freddie. I don't want to ask Freddie anything. I already see where that goes. And I love Guyana. I'm a Guyanese to heart.
I like that.
Right? Yes, I love my Guyanese people. I still have family, brothers and sisters back home. I see Freddie is making faces, but that's fine with me. I know how he think anyhow. But there is nobody back in Guyana who represents the Portuguese. So we never arrive.
I think I like to comment on that. Number one.
Yes, you go ahead, sir.
Number one, the Portuguese came 3 days before the Indians in Guyana. So we were there 3 days before the Indians, one. Number two, I have been in political life since 1987. I certainly represent, I don't represent the Portuguese in that. I represent the people who want to progress this country forward.
Thank you.
And that is where the difficulty is. When we start thinking race, we are negating, we are destroying this nation. We have to stop thinking that. You're living in Canada, baby. We're living here with it.
I don't think it's race. I don't think it's race.
You
guys make division.
All right.
You guys make too much of division in Guyana.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I don't know who you represent. You're representing yourself.
Babes, you should come to Guyana and you will know what I'm representing. I'm running in the constituency one of the city of Georgetown.
In the
local government elections coming up.
All right. Respect. Let's keep it under respect.
That is opposite the Tata Gill. So don't talk about I must come back home.
All right, Daphne.
All right, there's opinions and opinions. Thank you very much for coming through. I'm glad that you're proud to be Guyanese and have a good night. I want to say good night to the people down in Canada and North America and wherever you're calling from. Thank you very much for coming through. There's another call coming through. Good evening, caller. Hello. Yes, good evening.
I'm on today.
Yes, you are. Go ahead and make your contribution, please.
Start to ask this resources, who does it belong to? This is my question. Who does this resources belong to? The reason why I ask the question is because people seem to be, if the Guyanese people say we want money to do this, one or two people or a group of people say no, the money can't do this.
So the topic is on Indian arrival and the Indians in Guyana from the arrival time to the present. That's the topic.
Well, in terms of arrival, regional Indians, the Indian community, whether they're on arrival there, I only have one question in terms of arrival, is that we cannot compare indentureship to slavery. Slavery is the worst treatment on indenture. I see some people try to match it to, try to put it on a parallel level. It's not on parallel level. Slavery was the worst atrocity in history. Then indentureship. That will be my contribution. Thanks.
Thank you very much for coming through there, Carl. Let me see. Yes, it is 231-2982, and we also have, if you're in Guyana and you want to call WhatsApp, it's 637-1071. Goes for overseas callers as well. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, am I on the show?
Yes, you are on the show. You're live. Please do make a contribution.
Huh?
Yes, go ahead. Make a contribution, please.
Well, I'm listening to the show right now. I am.
Yes, you're on the show. You're live, and we hear you loud and clear.
Huh?
We hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, I am hearing the two guys, the Portuguese guys.
Mr. DeFrietas.
I can't remember his name.
Well, go ahead. Make a contribution, please. Yes.
Huh?
Please do make a contribution, sir.
No, the thing is, I am very strongly a Guyanese. I've been a Guyanese for 27 years before I left the country.
You stopped being a Guyanese when you go abroad?
No.
You stopped being a Guyanese when you went abroad? I'm curious.
What?
You said you were a Guyanese for 27 years before you went abroad. After you went abroad, you stopped being a Guyanese?
No, I never.
Okay, that's I don't know. I'm just asking.
In the country,
Anyway, so could you make your contribution?
Gildarie.
Yes, make a contribution, please.
No, the thing is, I'm looking at the show right now, and I haven't seen any response to my thing. But the guy, the James Bond and the Portuguese guy is there. Am I in the same show?
Yes, you're in the same show, but you have not make a contribution. What's the point?
We got it.
We gotta go. Sorry about that.
No, the thing is, I'll make it short. What they are saying is valid points, but it's not the same. If I've seen Guyana where my grandmother would help a Chinese woman or a black woman. That was Guyana when I was a kid. That 50-something years ago. Like that was these guys are talking of, through their whatever, their rear end.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm very confused what you're talking about there.
We gotta go.
I gotta go. I gotta cut this call.
Independence and all that.
Yeah, but you're not making it. You're not very clear. I'm not sure. You guys understand anything we say?
No, we gotta go.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you for coming through. My apologies.
There must be.
Look, let us keep to the topic. Let's not confuse this thing. Indian arrival day.
The thing is.
Wait.
The essence of what they are saying, James Bond has a political aspect to the conversation. The other guy has a more philosophical aspect to it, right? But the thing is, between the two of them, they still don't understand the concept of what Guyana was a long time ago. And you, Gildarie, you're just a kid. Freddie might understand a little bit more, but there was a time when Guyana was where you couldn't stop in front of anybody's house and they'd invite you and feed you and, that was Guyana. It was a different time. Black people, Chinese people, whatever, didn't matter. We were always one people, right? And that is the concept of Guyana that is lost somewhere along the line.
Okay. Now we get to you. No, we get to you. Thanks to that. Now we get to you. He's saying Guyana was more racially solidified.
Well, I get what you're saying there.
Now you get. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, man. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
And he has a point.
Yes. Thank you very much.
But there was no slogans there.
Right. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good evening. Go right ahead, please.
Mr. Gildarie, Mr. Jameson, Mr. DeFrietas.
Freddie Kissoon.
And the famous. I went to school in the late 70s in Mahaica with some DeFrietas. I don't know if Mr. DeFrietas related to them. But I have an opinion. Myself and Afro-Guyanese and whatever, we were so discriminated and eliminated by these guys. Because if there's no animosity with you, it's just that we were so discriminated by these one Portuguese living in Mahaica in the Yup in fact.
Must be his family. Your family was racial.
No. I was classmates with some of them. And they don't even sit next to us. They have to sit by themselves. They don't want to sit near to us.
Would you agree that maybe a few experience?
I can respond to this.
But before you respond to it, Malcolm, would you agree that a few isolated cases does not speak to the entire Guyana?
No, Malcolm can't defend.
Malcolm can't defend.
Malcolm can't defend the Portuguese and Germany in this country.
Hold a moment.
Don't dare Malcolm defend us. You may not have been. You not like that.
Please, Freddie, please. I will respond to that person. I am saying that. Hold a moment.
Let them know. Malcolm, let the man finish. You
said in Marconi and Mahaica that occurred.
You finished, sir?
That might be possible. Right?
Yeah, they are DeFrietas too, They are DeFrietas.
There are No. There are many of us. There are many of us.
He's lying, so is his family was like that.
All right, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for coming through there. Not a kidding you, no matter.
No, it's Malcolm family, but that doesn't mean Malcolm did that. Malcolm is very motivation.
Malcolm's from Waterville. His preference of the ladies. According to Freddie.
The boys tormenting. But we understand. I understand what you're saying there. It's a very serious thing. Certain circumstances or incidents.
I went through that. And still, if you go into youth now, no, Mr. Freddie, no, you know me personally. I know you personally. I could give you the information. You go in youth now, and it still goes on. Only one family in different families.
But you cannot use the whole family to indict the entire Guyanese.
He's not. He's making.
Right.
He's making a profound sociological point.
Yes.
Look, Malcolm DeFrietas. Malcolm DeFrietas that I know, my personal friend from Waterville. Has been a motivation person all his life. Malcolm don't deal with Portuguese this and Portuguese that. But the point that the man is making is that you still have that mulatto, clay complexion, Creole distinction in Guyana. And do you know, three schools are perpetuating that mulatto / Portuguese Creole class. 40 years ago, they were thinning out. But those three schools, Marian Academy, School of the Nations, and Maze, those Portuguese clay complexion children, they don't mix in those schools. That school is perpetuating the kind of light complexion mulatto thing the guy's talking about.
You have to I have a thought presently.
All right, here, we got to bring this conversation to a close. You cannot dominate this conversation by yourself, right?
Why?
I hear your point, what you say.
Anyway, so thanks a lot. But
Thank you very much.
Malcolm family was like that, but not Malcolm.
Hold a moment.
Look, I am sure James had
in a way,
James had family. James had relatives that didn't like Indians. Gildarie had relatives that didn't like black people. I perhaps had relatives that didn't like...
Good evening, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen. Happy arrival day. Happy Indian arrival day.
Thank you very much.
To give a short
Same to you, sir.
excerpt from the archives, 2 paragraphs to show how far we have come. National Archives of Guyana. AC 410, 19 September 1846. Richard Haynes, Esquire. The attention of the Inspector General of Police is requested to the directions already issued in respect to the idling of coolie laborers in town. The space in front of the public buildings has been for several days thronged with these coolies, cooking and sleeping and catching crabs and fish in the trenches around the public buildings. Signed by Henry Light, Governor of British Guiana. Well, now we go around the buildings into the building itself, Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there's a point to that, how far we've come as a country. That was it back in those days. And I could say, James, have we come far as a country?
Yes, we've come extremely far as a country.
Have we developed? Are we mature as a country?
We're getting there. We're seeing sparks of that maturity, and but we got to encourage those voices. We got to encourage those persons who want to see Guyana less acrimony, more open to views, more open to dissent, more open to conflicting ideas. But we have come a tremendously far way and still got a lot more to go.
I got a question for the three men, my three friends here. Is Guyana tolerant, and I'm going to say Guyana, our politicians, our leaders tolerant of independent thinkers? I would love to hear from the three guys.
I'll give way to our two guests. Now our two guest hosts. The Portuguese man. Sorry.
I'm talking across the divide.
The Guyanese man.
I like how you digging your friend, boy. Nobody can dig Malcolm like how you digging Malcolm. I enjoy you. How you digging? How you digging at Malcolm?
I don't take skin.
You don't seem disaccustomed to it.
No. I don't take skin.
Portuguese people don't have thick skin.
No, I believe that we have grown as a nation. I do not think the political leaders, I think some of them are trying to grasp with the concept of creating greater tolerance, because somewhere along the line, I feel that this idea that we have that is embodied in the Constitution of cooperating, the concept of cooperation is in the Constitution of Guyana. And I find it difficult when the lack of bipartnership in the House of Assembly. They're only scatting remarks against one another, sometimes in language that is not conducive to a public interest. And the issues that we should be dealing with, even the issue of the bill at the moment, is not being dealt with in a deep enough way. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem whether the intellectual capacity in the House today is less, or the movement of tolerance, of ability to listen to a divergent view. And in that divergent view, you might have an idea that is sound enough to move forward and create an amendment to a bill to make the bill better. That idea might be coming from the opposition. So what? The idea that the important thing is that the bill is better because somebody in the House has given an idea that is accepted and become law. That what is not proposed in the original.
Thank you very much for that, Malcolm, and I think you have echoed what I believe. Why can't we cross the floor in the House and agree on certain things that is beneficial to our Guyanese? We could be tolerant, James.
In the National Assembly, there is space for bipartisanship. Special select committees, where it is comprised of the various parties, and persons could be more open.
But most of it is not working today.
But you see, the thing, you're making some points based on the Constitution. I always said the institutions are there. I think Guyana has all the institutions necessary for a working a progressive democracy. But these institutions need strengthening. And the political will to strengthen these institutions must remain whether or not the government changes.
I wasn't talking about that. I think, James, I don't think you understood that, or maybe I didn't explain.
I was getting the tolerant part.
Right.
If our part
you open your mouth as James Bond, Afro-Guyanese, and you say, make use of the opportunities. I have a different thing. I believe I could say Irfan Ali is doing a wonderful job. Or Gildarie come out and say Aubrey Norton is doing a wonderful job. And then you see people say, but why are you saying that? He's in why is he supporting Aubrey Norton? Or you saying Irfan Ali do a good job? And that is from that angle I wanted to know whether we have the maturity and the tolerance, and have we really evolved as a people?
We're not, like I said before, we have a few persons who are trying to be tolerant and be open, but I don't think it's accepted from the higher ups. You might find persons at the low tier being more receptive to views that are balanced, and making those views that are balanced. But in terms of the hierarchical structure of the party, we're not seeing that example of the reaching across the divide, and more effort, in my view, needs to be made in that regard from the higher ups. I think if the leaders of the parties are more tolerant of each other, in terms of not just the symbolic handshakes, but again in terms of the constitution of the boards, in terms of representation of the opposition, and the civil society in the decision-making processes of the government. That's an idea of tolerance. And I think once the masses see the leaders are moving in this direction, then the masses will follow. You just look at the example. You think about it, if today, I know the president has extended his hand a number of times to Commander Norton. I know there have been a lot of interactions. I saw it during Pagwa, Aubrey Norton and Nandalal, the AG celebrating Pagwa together. This imagery coming from opposition and government, I think, is what will break the ice a bit more. But we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it
Let's
at the level of the...
Good evening, caller.
Hey, good evening. I'd like to add just a bit to what James Bond had said earlier about the One Guyana slogan. Now, I have to say that with Bond, I agree that the slogan itself presents its own dangers. I think that the existence of that slogan, One Guyana, would appear to deny the existence of systemic racism that we experience here in Guyana, and we do. The second thing is I find that the slogan has become a sort of brand in itself, but it's a thing that seems not to encourage what the Constitution promises each ethnic group. You're allowed to be who you are without being forced to assimilate us into, a single monolith. And I think that is perhaps the biggest problem with this One Guyana slogan. What it does insofar as it denies quite rightfully the right of people to be who they are, to pursue their interest. All right? I'll give one example, because I know I assume Freddie's going to jump at it, but I'll give one example. I've noticed most recently the APA being by the government as being anti-One Guyana. But when you look at the question of indigenous land rights and the fact that even 6 years after independence, we are still refusing to recognize indigenous rights, land title, and we're still clinging on to terra nullius. We're still calling them greedy. We're refusing to recognize their rights to land, and which is, of course, a denial of their right to life. And we're, gallivanting with the One Guyana slogan, One Guyana slogan. We're not really dealing with it as an organization that is perhaps at the forefront of dealing with the land right issue, the governmental ambassador. I mean, how does that even support the views of One Guyana?
Thank you very much for coming through there. Anybody want to respond?
No, let's just go to the calls. There's any call? No?
Yeah, I think our national security advisor was trying to call. Let me see if I can get him back. 1 second.
Mr. Whoever.
Slide.
But the guy asks a very fundamental question.
Yes, we come back to it in a very short
But there's some missing links in his thing.
I know.
Let's take the calls. It's the people's
It
night.
would be interesting to hear from Jerry what they're saying.
He was trying to call.
Hi, good evening, Captain. Go right ahead.
Hi. So I was just listening to the conversation and listening to James with to see more working across the divide. And I think it's a good point that James is making. But I want to also say to James that the issue of leadership must be founded on integrity and honesty and trust. It means that, and especially when you try to work across the divide, if you have people who are constantly, daily, every day, calling Guyana the apartheid state, saying that the United States and the Western powers rigged the 2020 elections to put in this government, and if all they're doing is lying, and they know they're lying, they know that we know they're lying, and they continue to lie, and they continue to deface and defame Guyana all over the world, it makes it very difficult to sit across the table with people who are lying to your face, and they know that you know they're lying. It becomes a very, very difficult proposition, James. I just wanted to put that on the table. And so the issue of building trust and good faith, and in the interest of Guyana, I think we need to stop. We need to stop the propaganda and the misinformation and the lies, and let us start dealing with. If the PNC believe that they could do better, let them tell the nation what they could do better in agriculture, what they could do better in education and tourism. How could they spend the oil money better and differently? But every day, all they're doing every day is lying and fighting and trying to create instability, and that is not going to work, especially in the effort to try and say, let us work across the divide. I could tell you, and I'm free to tell you, that President Ali is very, very committed to working with every single Guyanese, and also ensuring that every Guyanese, every man, woman, and child, regardless of your race, regardless of your religion, that you have equal access to the opportunities. But when it comes to the political divide, we have to build the trust, and we have to build the respect, and we have to stop the lying and the propaganda.
Jerry, don't go off. Can you hear me?
Yes, Freddie.
We coming up to 1 year of this program, and so we're inviting people that came early on that was quite generous to us and lend us their presence. So in a few weeks' time, we'll be asking you to come on again. Would that be all right?
Freddie, the last time I came to that program, you all did not offer me any coffee. If you promise me coffee in the program, I will come.
I'd buy the coffee for you.
National Security Advisor. National Security Advisor, you're carrying your badways all over.
I get you some Starbucks.
Jerry.
You carry your badways all over.
Jerry, you didn't say good night to your fellow Portuguese. The Honorable Malcolm DeFrietas.
Y'all please, it's only he and Kit Natty went to left. Y'all please be gentle with him.
Yes, my friend, my personal friend.
No, I already had a little rough house with Freddie today. We can handle it.
Thank you. There is, I think, is there a question posed to James there or a comment? I don't know if you cut the James.
In light of what, and I must say, Captain Gildarie has been a very, very dear friend of mine for decades. I love him. I take inspiration from him in terms of the entrepreneurial aspect of his life. And we have this back and forth, he and I, ding dong for years. We don't always see eye to eye, but I respect his opinion, respect his views. Yes, like me, you and I. In light of this, Captain Gildarie, your description of the PNC, which I don't quite agree with, but in light of your description of PNCR, do you think there is still a burden on the government of the day to do all within its power to bridge this divide, to create trust, to create harmony, at least a working relationship with the opposition? Do you think that the government of the day, because it says the opposition is lying through its teeth, X, Y, and Z, that it must abdicate its responsibility of healing this nation, of pulling this nation together?
James, I promise I'll answer you, but when you said you don't agree with me, are you saying that Guyana is an apartheid state? Are you saying
Guyana is not an apartheid state. I've said that publicly. Guyana is not an apartheid state.
Well, then I was wondering which part of what I said you didn't agree with.
No,
because
you didn't.
I said that this is what every day all I'm hearing is that the elections were rigged by the PNC and the United States and the Canada and the UK and CARICOM. And that is a narrative that they know they're lying, and they continue to do it, and they continue to lie day in and day out. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we listen. We are. We're not hearing. Listening to you, Captain.
Right. So when you say you don't agree with me, I wish that you could tell me which part of that statement you don't agree with. Do you agree that the election was fair and free finally when it was declared by CARICOM observers? That is a non-issue, that the United States and the international community will never involve in any kind of interference in our election system. That is a fact. What is bothering me is that we want to work together. For sure, the government wants to work with every single party and Guyanese and stakeholders and so on. But you have to come with trust, and you have to come in good faith, and you can't be coming with a knife behind your back. I mean, that is where the problem is. But so to answer your question, I would say to you, yes. I think when you're in government, I think you are meant to be magnanimous. You're meant to be bigger than the pettiness. And I must tell you, President Ali demonstrated that. He stretched his hand out across the divide and was embarrassed. And I will say to you, I will keep on saying to the president, keep stretching his hand out. And I agree with you on that. I think with what is before us, and I think people must understand that what is before us, every man, woman, and child in this country will really, really have a great life. And with a leader like President Ali, with his vision and his commitment to making sure every man, woman, and child have equal access to the opportunities, Guyana is a bright, bright place. And we don't need this conflict. We need to be working together. I agree with you.
Jerry, when you were speaking, Malcolm DeFrietas whispered in my ears. He wants me to ask you a question. He said he's contesting the local government election in Constituency 1, and he wants to know if you will vote for him.
He's not living in that constituency.
Freddie is asking you to break the law of confidentiality of the
His
vote.
business is there.
Don't let Freddie carry you there.
No, but Captain, what I was disagreeing with you with...
Is Malcolm a candidate for the PPP?
Malcolm is an independent candidate. The independent candidate in Constituency 1 for the city of Georgetown.
Okay.
Captain, what I disagreed with you with is when you said that the picture you painted of the PNC as every day they're seeking to just tarnish the image of the government. That's what I disagree with you with your portrayal of the PNC with. But you did answer my other questions. But I want to say it goes beyond the handshake. Again, I'm not into symbolism and sloganisms. I am a practical person. Again, is the opposition on each and every single board of the state? Is the opposition involved in the composition of the appointment? Why are we taking so long to appoint our Chief Justice and our Chancellor? These constitutional bodies and these service commissions. We don't just want to hear talk about, we're all working together. I want to see, and like many other persons, it's not my view alone, but a lot of us have gone beyond this sloganism, because when the government changes, what happens to all this sloganism? What happens to One Guyana then? It goes out the window. Some other government comes in, they talk about one destiny this time. So all I'm saying is, and as Malcolm's been advocating, the Constitution lays out the framework for unity, for cooperativism. And we must abide by that. We must go beyond these slogans and start working together as the Constitution dictates to make this country work for everybody and everybody benefits.
Anyway,
all right.
James, I will say to you, if the leadership of the PNC will take a feather out of your cap, because you're by no means, you are a PNC to your core, and if they would take a feather out of your cap to say that you are prepared to sit and talk to people without being insulting, without maligning people, listen, this country will go far away. So you are a good promise of the future. If you are an example of what the future looks like, I would say we are in good hands. And I think it augurs well for the future.
Thank you very much for coming through there, Captain. And I think I love that kind of debate and the tone flow. Have a good night. Captain Jerry Gildarie, National Security Advisor.
It's every time we get up, by the way. Every time we meet up, that's
yes,
it.
Thank you. Good. It's good to agree.
It's every time.
Disagree.
Yeah, it's every time.
Good evening, caller. Go right ahead.
Good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
This 5th of May holiday, is it in arrival day or is it arrival day?
Freddie Kissoon.
It's arrival day. It's not Indian. It's not Indian arrival day. It's arrival day to honor the Indian, Portuguese, and Chinese team.
Why is it being promoted as Indian arrival day? Because I could remember it was changed from Indian arrival day to arrival day to recognize all the races who came to Guyana.
But that,
why is it being promoted now as Indian arrival day?
Actually, the PP did not. Let me just defend if ever a PNC man defend the PP right now. The PP government did not change it to Indian Arrival Day. As a matter of fact, the PP government changed it from Indian Arrival Day to Arrival Day.
This program now, if anybody is into this program now, do you believe that this holiday is Indian Arrival Day?
No, sir. No, sir. Everybody's saying Arrival Day, and I think I was the person who said, I echo the sentiments of the PNC. Our position is it should be Indian Arrival Day. That is the position of the People's National Congress.
Well, I'd like to say that's my position.
Which I endorse.
It should
be Indian Arrival Day.
I think it should be Indian Arrival Day, and it should be changed to Indian Arrival Day.
But it is 2003, 2004 when it changed from Indian Arrival Day to Arrival Day, and that was done by the PP civic regime.
I understand that, but my difficulty is that it is being promoted as Indian Arrival Day when I can recall that it was changed to Arrival Day to recognize
but all the posters I've seen is Arrival Day. I've not seen an Indian Arrival Day poster from any government agency.
I think in the Freudian mind of people, it speaks to the achievement of Indians. Yeah. It's a lot of them that came 186 years and they've contributed fantastically to this country. I have no objection to it being named Indian Arrival Day.
Well, I think he's asking a fundamental question. What is it that we celebrate in there?
It's a rival day. It's a rival day. It's a rival day.
Thank you very much for coming to the
I think I want to comment on this. I think I want to comment on this.
Malcolm want to come in. Malcolm want to come in.
Go ahead.
Don't come
We had more than one people came as indentured servants.
Portuguese came 3 days before the...
And the Portuguese came 3 days before the Indians. But the point is, if you want to give the day specifically as Indian Arrival Day, you'll have to give the Portuguese Arrival Day and the Chinese Arrival Day too. You see where the concept of these things go. The fact that it is the Arrival Day is being honored as when the day that the Indians arrive is just a part of a fact that they did arrive on that day. But it doesn't stop the concept of Arrival Day of itself. So if the nation want to go down the line to call it Indian Arrival Day, I'll be advocating for Portuguese Arrival Day.
And I would have no problem
and a Chinese
I would advocate for you as well. And I would advocate for you as well, sir. I'd advocate for you.
Jeremy Gavai said it's only 2 of you left. You know, you were kidding. Hold on. Only 2 of you will be...
Well, you know, Jerry has an opinion on a matter that he doesn't quite have a good understanding of.
All right, caller, that's it. Hi, how you doing? Yeah, man. Yes, go. All right, go right ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I want to ask another question pertaining to Arrival Day or ethnic issues. Can the panelists explain or to see to find out if the allocation from the treasury from the country coffers which goes to the ethnic organization in the country, if what is being done to the African organization, if it's the same thing being done to the Indian organization. This is my prayer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming through. Freddie Kissoon, do we know? I think the government, I don't know what you are parliamentarian, right? No. I think every year in the budget, there is a set sum that is given.
Subventions given to these organizations.
I'm aware of that. That goes to different organizations.
And I don't think it's equal. I think a lot of agencies get a flat $10 million, $20 million flat rate. But during the course of the year, of course, they would receive some more. For example, August 1st celebrations, the government subvention came, all right, for ACT or whoever it is. But there's other monies that are spent by government during August 1st. Right. And the same would go to if it's the IAC, they will get a particular subvention, but during the course of different other activities.
No, well, I think it's a fundamental question, and I think it's a fair question that the gentleman
I'm not sure who gets more, who gets less.
Right.
But I think it would be on par.
Equal across,
it would be on par. It would be on par.
There's a call coming in from the, let's see what's happening. Hi, good evening, caller.
Hello, hi, Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie Kissoon, Gildarie show. Could you lower the volume what you're listening to, please?
Yes, I did. I was listening to you guys. Now, I call in about this one guy. Now, this is what I understand about it, right? I born in 1985, and my whole life, we get this race thing going on. So, now, obviously, if the president say, one guy, it means let's come together and forget about this race. That's what I get. As a Guyanese, that's what I get, the energy I get from them. Am I wrong or right?
Well, it's your opinion. It's your different opinion.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
Well, tonight I see get some very interested person. Like, they get different opinion, like,
and James has his opinion.
That's okay. We could all have different opinions. That's okay.
We want to take it to opinion. We want to take it to opinion, so
that's okay.
You may not have the right. You may not have the right opinion, but you have the right to your opinion.
Right.
From the time I growing up, I know we have this race problem with Indian and African. Sorry to say that. I'm a mixed race. Where my place is, if it's not one guy.
I want to ask you a question, because this has been something has been playing in my head in recent years. You believe they got a problem with Indian and Afro-Guyanese? Or within politician pushing the fire, the wood in the fire, like
There's
James?
no politician.
No, I say politicians are the reason.
Politicians are the reason why we have that. I don't believe there's a problem in here.
We have a political problem, not a racial problem.
I'll say this. I support Mr. James Van. Okay, like energy and style, independent thinking. Mr. Malcolm, I support you with a few things. But I understand why you get this one guy in the same way I have it.
Okay,
well, it depends on opinion. But I think, to be honest, if the question is asked to me, I would say I probably don't subscribe to what James and Malcolm is saying there. I believe that we got to start somewhere.
No, and I think
it may not be close, right? I believe he wants to start somewhere.
I think he means and he's doing.
But where do you start?
In that
where do you start? But
anyway,
of course, there's a different opinion.
No, well, why you don't? All right, so we have this approach. We're thinking it's fundamentally sound. All he has to do now is change the labeling of it and carry it up to the one people, one nation.
But then I keep asking for what?
Just label one people, one nation,
that's the problem you got. That's the problem you're getting into.
That's the nation's motto.
That's the problem.
That's our motto.
You
I don't think you need a slogan. Our motto is a slogan.
You against President Ali.
Our motto is a slogan. That's all the slogan we need.
I am saying.
You're bringing the old jaded.
Hold on.
That's your Freddie. Anachronistic
Freddie, Freddie, you can use whatever language you want to use in that, and you can get how angry you want to use in that. But if we're saying the fundamental idea that the president has is a unifying idea.
All right,
but the clothes that he's carrying is a bad clothes. He can go to what is a better clothes and unify the nation.
All right, and that is Malcolm's opinion. But thank you very much for coming through the caller. Thank you very much for coming through.
All right, guys, thanks.
I think
I got a friend like Freddie by the name of his name is Dominic Domit. Give Dominic a shout out. Dominic pokes me the same way Freddie pokes you.
Yeah. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller. Hi. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
All right, so I have a brief comment and perhaps a question directed for James. I don't understand the premise of the program in terms of you're asking cats to comment on the lives of dogs in the sense of you're asking people to comment on the lives of Indos since the arrival 185 years ago. But all right, having said that, my question would be towards James, being a proud member of the PNC, as he said. How does he view the physical abuse meted out to Indians in the 90s and perhaps the zeros? I mean, how he look at that? Not so much in the teens, but definitely in the 90s and the zeros. And there's no denying that it happened. I mean, I was physically in the street and I had to protect people at the time. So I'd be interested to hear James's views on that, of how Indos were physically abused during that period.
Thank you very much. Before James jump in there, I want to comment on something that you raised. Fundamentally, I was driving, and I was thinking, I've never been one to subscribe to being, how you say it, part of bandwagoners, if you want to call it that. And there's a reason for that. How do you have an arrival, let's say it's Indian Arrival Day, and you have a bunch of Indians, Indo-Guyanese sitting there commenting about something? Why not have a diverse set of Guyanese sitting at the table discussing about it? So I would probably want to comment on that directly. That if you
think about cats and dogs?
Right. So I would probably want to say that if I'm reading you correctly what you're saying there, that was my thinking on it, and I subscribe to that.
It's actually saying why you have an African in a approach.
Right.
That's what you're commenting about.
But it's interesting. It's interesting that we have
Guyanese who live among Indians.
And I like this. I like this.
Cricket commentators can go to football match and commentate, bro.
The analogy doesn't apply here.
No.
That's a bad analogy, sir.
All right, but James, there's a question. Let James answer this question.
First and foremost, as recent as what happened at Monterey Po, I came out and I condemned that violence against East Indians. And I will always condemn violence along ethnic lines. I'll always do that. So My position will never change. I do not believe in violence. I do not subscribe to violence. I believe that at some stage we must become a mature society where we do not attack people simply because they look differently. And I would always condemn that. The violence being out to Indians, the violence being out to any people, I would always condemn it, sir. And I recently did that during Monterey Point with our Indian sisters and brothers who were at Monterey Point Market. They were robbed and beaten. I did condemn that in no uncertain terms.
Thank you for coming through the caller.
So this is a recent position then, because I didn't hear your voice in the 90s and the zeros.
Yes, you won't hear my voice in the 90s and the zeros, sir, because I'm 44 years of age. One, and I think it's very, I don't want to attack you, sir, but I want to say, Guyanese, we need to stop going back and saying, because someone speaks now, it's like saying, you can't, why weren't you speaking then?
Yeah, people change, so come on.
Accept what someone is saying, embrace what they're saying. If they're right, say yes, sir. Thank you for saying that. If they're wrong, then you say. But don't tell somebody, oh, why didn't you say that 2-3 years ago? Why didn't you say 1990s? Sir, I was still in high school. I was still in high school. You know.
I hope it wasn't on your road, brother. That's what I hope.
I hope you weren't too.
Come on.
I hope you weren't too.
Come on.
Thank you very much for coming through.
I hope you weren't too.
For sure.
Thank you very much for coming through there. Good. Bye-bye. We got about a few minutes remaining. Let's see what happens here. I think let's take this couple more calls very quickly. It's a people's night. Go ahead, caller. Good evening. Hello. I think we missed that one. Let's go right there. Good evening, caller. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good evening, sir.
I think Selvin is trying to call.
Go ahead.
Hang in, Selvin. We'll get to you.
I think we missed the one there.
Try to get Selvin.
Selvin. Okay, good. Good evening, caller. Selvin Peters. Go right ahead.
South Peters here.
Yes, sir.
Look, man, what I want with this one Guyana, right? I want President Ali to pick up that damn phone and call Aubrey Norton so that the Judicial Service Commission could be appointed.
Selvin, Selvin, are you in Guyana?
No, I'm coming to Guyana next week.
Okay, well, Selvin, please take down my cell number and call me right now, 614-5927. Okay,
614-5927.
Yeah, when you come and call me so we can be on the program, okay?
Okay, it has to do with the program. It's not money you're asking for, so...
Selvin, you got money to give away? He says not money. Yeah.
Sure, I got money to give away. What you want?
How much I want?
Call his bluff. Call the bluff, Freddie. I call the bluff. I would call the bluff.
I don't
He's
want.
on national television.
I'm a modest guy. I don't want much. Give him our 50,000.
I think he's gone there. Let's see what happens. Good evening, caller. Hello?
I think he made a point there.
No, but Selvin has been Selvin Peters, attorney at law based in Canada, but he's been doing a lot of cases and back and forth. Independent thinker too, but he's criticized both the opposition and the government over time. And I know that he's always made an impact.
And that's one, we have just moved beyond the slogans in handshake.
That's the way it gotta be. I can agree to disagree with you when I disagree with you.
Yeah.
I saw a video today, Freddie Kissoon, and really disturbed me. I saw the beating of a policeman or the attack on a policeman. Now, I don't so agree, and sometimes we don't like policemen in this country, but they represent law and order in this country. Totally wrong. 0 points for those people. I hope they arrest and charge them. And there's nothing in Guyana that could justify you beating or attacking a policeman. They represent law and order. There are many things that you can do.
You can't
to raise it. You cannot do that.
You did in Malaysia.
You cannot do that. And that video is a very disturbing. I saw the Commissioner of Police came out and criticized it. And of course, I believe that there's going to be some justice.
But that's a universal thing. You don't attack.
Somebody from the road came and defended that policeman and parted it, but it was a brutal attack.
But it don't matter if the police have nowhere in the world.
You cannot do that. That's an attack. The police represent law and order in this country, and we can't tolerate that. 0 points to those people.
Maybe this is the last one.
I think, let me see, there's a caller here.
Yeah,
let's say we take this last call before we go back to our panelists. Good evening, caller, very quickly. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead, caller.
Is that the
Yes, this is a show. Please make a contribution.
Okay, am I live on the show?
Yes, you are live.
Yeah.
You're live.
And the topic is Indian arrival.
Or arrival day.
Okay, yes. I
surprised
lived
it's
for
Indian arrival.
close to 50 years now. And when I left Guyana, I didn't have much of a choice. We had to leave Guyana because of the situation, you know.
Yes.
But my heart and my soul is still in Guyana. I love Guyana. But this thing about this what's going on with this racist thing in Guyana, you know, I really don't.
Perpetuated by some politicians.
Not only politicians, perpetuation by the media, by civil society groups.
Yeah, okay, but in Trinidad we don't have this kind of Indo-Trini or Jamaica. You don't hear about Indo-Jamaicans. Why is the Guyana we only have in this Indo? Everything is about Indo-Guyanese or African Guyanese. You know why everybody now is basically benefit from Guyana right now. You know.
All right.
When we left Guyana, and who was born in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, we didn't have much of a choice. But anybody who born beyond that in the 80s, they should consider themselves the most luckiest people on this earth.
Got you very much. Point taken. I think we're out of time. Well, thank you very much for coming through that. I love that the fact that you said that you love Guyana. We should all love Guyana. It's our country. Thank you very much for coming through.
Of course, I love Guyana.
Thank you very much, dear boss. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. I want to say to everybody who's come through, it's so good to be listening to you guys this evening. I think I have the feeling, and I think the panelists I would probably agree with this. We have Guyana at heart, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to see this country really develop and our people as one. However you clothe it or whatever you put it, at the end of the day, this country has to go and everybody should benefit. We're beautiful people. Freddie Kissoon, Malcolm DeFrietas, James Bond. Who want to start first as we close this?
Well, I would like to give way to our guests. We're going to be here Monday. We're going to be here Wednesday. So I was saying my Portuguese friend, but my friend.
You said the man, you talking about the man, ladies and so on.
I resent that he wants a Portuguese arrival day. And the other thing is, we have to be careful. It's the security advisor to the president, Mr. Jerry Gildarie, who say we have to treat two of them carefully because only two of them remain in Guyana, Malcolm DeFrietas and Kit Nascimento. With that recognition, I give way to Malcolm DeFrietas.
Well, I've heard Freddie, and I certainly everybody has heard Freddie. But I think tonight's program was a very important program towards creating tolerance in our country. The very fact that we can sit down, there are different racial groups, can sit down and discuss a racial conceptualization of something and try to find a way of resolving the racial intolerance at the political level and the social level and in the economic level too. I mean, we could actually be in a situation like where we are today and agree to disagree on matters and agree on matters that have come along. And with the inputs from the other people who were coming into us, I think we had a tremendous arrival here today in creating a greater consciousness, in getting our people together to work, to get to greater heights.
Thank you very much,
Guyana forward.
James?
First and foremost, thanks for having me here. It was a learning experience. Good hearing from Malcolm DeFrietas. I like his thinking process. He has what is called a tidy mind. He keeps it simple, and that's extremely important. A lot of our problems can be solved by just being simple. It isn't the grand ideas, I think, that will move us forward. It is the simple things, and one of the simple things is recognize that we have more in common than we are different. Arriving is one. Some came as slaves, some came as indentured servants, some came willingly. But at the end of the day, we're here. And that's the simplest thing you could drive at. We're here now, and now that we're here, we must make this work. It's not a matter of making excuses now, or the sloganism or the symbolisms. We must make this work, and this must be replicated. Of having persons from different political divides. Michael is independent. I'm from a political party. Persons who are of different ethnicity. We must make it our duty, irrespective of what the criticisms are, to make it work. And let me close by saying that indeed President Ali is trying and making every effort to push his agenda. However, that agenda will be more successful with the inclusion of his counterpart, Comrade Aubrey Norton. We must have the largest political opposition involved in some way, shape, or form in the decision-making process of this government. It must not just at the National Assembly level, but there are other levels and other back channels can be used to ensure that every Guyanese, when they look, they see, oh, it is not the back and forth, it's not the acrimony. These guys are literally working in tandem in some way, shape, or form, agreeing to disagree like we have in making things
I'm assuming that Jerry Gavaya words didn't have any effect in it.
But you know, what Malcolm, and I thank you very much, James and Malcolm DeFrietas, what Malcolm would have said earlier has really resounded in my mind, because this is how I envision my country to be. I want to say my country, our country. We should not be afraid that although we may be on opposing side, there's one common goal, and that is to make Guyana a better place. And if it is that if you put in a piece of legislation that is going to benefit all Guyana, as long as we could agree that it doesn't matter which side it comes from, that is going to benefit all Guyana. Let's say a piece of legislation that has to do with speeding on the road or something. If it comes from the opposition, it's good for all Guyana. Could we really shoot it down? And I think that is a very good point that was made by Malcolm. James is also waded in there, all hands on deck, whether it is the opposition leader. I think 218,000 persons being represented by the joint opposition. If you're talking about AFC APNU, being told that we're out of time, but it is, I think it's been a very good program that we've had here today. Good contributions from the people who have been joined or who would have joined us tonight. I like this kind of thing, and it's so diverse, and this is so unique, and maybe the first of its kind. I can't remember seeing a program that was taken on such a big topic about arrival, but it wasn't only about arrival. It speaks to so many other things: the development of our country, the togetherness of our people, the commonness of a goal. I think these are big, big topics, and it's so timely at this juncture of our history with oil and gas. Wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much to our panelists, and of course to my very good co-host who's always here to disturb me all hours in the night and the morning with some bright ideas as to how the show could go. It's going to be a year soon. I don't know how I'm doing it, but we get in there. Thank you very much. Without your support, we could not have done it. Be safe on the roadways. Until then.